Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So today we're on day 9, I believe, of going through the Bible in 6 months. And today we're going to cover the book of Exodus, chapters 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And yesterday, or maybe 14, we'll see how far we get. And yesterday we did go a little bit longer because chapter 7, 6, and 7, they kind of flow together. And so we're going to start today with chapter 8. So let's go ahead and pray really quick so we can get started. Father, I thank you so much for your revelations and for your truth and for your mercies and grace. I pray, Father, that this morning you would be in our midst, that you would open our eyes, ears, and mind, so that we can interpret and comprehend your word the way that you've intended for it to be understood. I pray, Father, that you would bless your people, bless each and every single person that comes across this life, and even those that are not. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Riri's. Good morning, Tasha and Petrichor. Good morning, Teresa. Good morning, Thomas. Good morning, is that Eliezer? Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Blazing. Good morning. So let's go ahead and start with Exodus. So we've already covered we've already seen a few miracles done. So our works, I would say works of God done. Good morning, Angelica, and Jesus Christ is away. I guess I'm saying he's on his way. Good morning, everyone. Oh, Jesus Christ is the way. That's what your screen name is. So yesterday we talked about two of the works that God had done. And uh, two of those things were, the first one was he had a rod, he had a stick, and he threw it and it turned into a serpent. And the magicians were able to replicate that. The other thing was that he was able to turn the river into blood, but the sorcerers and the magicians, they were able to replicate that too. So, and they were they were able to do these things by means of witchcraft and sorcery. And so now we're on to, in the first set, I would say it's not necessarily the second plague, because I'm thinking those are the first two things that he did, was the turning the snake into the staff into a snake, and turning the river into blood. So those were part of the first set of plagues. But Pharaoh did not give heed to it because it didn't move him, because he's thinking, you say that your God can do this and he's great and mighty. My sorcerers can do this, and I say that they're great and mighty. And so now we're on to the second plague. And so the Lord spoke to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'Thus says the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. But if you refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all your territory with frogs. So the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into your house, into your bedroom, on your bed, into the houses of your servants, on your people, into your ovens, and into your kneading bowls, and the frogs shall come up on you, on your people, and on all your servants.' And then the Lord spoke to Moses, 'Say to Aaron, stretch out your hand with your rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up on the land of Egypt.' So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments, and brought up frogs on the land of Egypt. And then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, 'Entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go, that they may sacrifice to the Lord.'" So you see here, by the second plague, the frogs, they're becoming a nuisance. And so Pharaoh's saying, if you get your God to take these frogs away, I'll give him what he wants. He can have his people can be his. They can worship him. I'll let him go. And Moses said to Pharaoh, "Accept the honor of saying, when I shall intercede for your servants and for your people, to destroy the frogs from you and your houses, that they may remain in the river only." He said, tomorrow, and he said, let it be according to your word, that you may know that there is no one like the Lord our God, and that frogs shall depart from you, from your houses, from your servants, and from your people. They shall remain in the river only. And then Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried out to the Lord concerning the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. So the Lord did according to the word of Moses. And the frogs died out of the houses, out of the courtyards, and out of the fields. They gathered them together in heaps, and the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he hardened his heart and did not heed them as the Lord has said. I think this is so powerful because we're just on the second plague, but how many times do we make promises to God? And the moment that he comes through on his end, they're saying, Lord, if you do this for me, I'll do that for you. It's an if this, then that type of scenario. How many times have we done that? God, if you do this, and then I'll do that. And then God does his part, but we fall short of our part because we go back and we become comfortable in the situation that we were in. And the next time things come around, they're bad. They're worse off than they were the first time. So the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch out your rod and strike the dust of the land so that it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And they did so. For Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod and struck the dust of the earth, and it became lice on man and beast. All the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. Now the magicians so worked with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not. So there were lice on man and beast. Then the magician said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. But Pharaoh's heart grew hard, and he did not heed them, just as the Lord had said. For him not to heed them, it made me think that Pharaoh must have been bald, because I don't know if you guys have ever encountered or dealt with lice. It's disgusting, and it's challenging to get rid of. And the Lord said to Moses, rise early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh as he comes out to the water, and then say to him, thus says the Lord, let my people go that they may serve me. Or else, if you will not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies on you and your servants, on your people and into your houses. The houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground on which they stand. And in that day I will set apart the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, in order that you may know that I am the Lord in the midst of the land. I will make a difference between my people and your people. Tomorrow this sign shall be. And the Lord did so. Thick swarms of flies came into the house of Pharaoh, into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was corrupted because of the swarms of flies. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, go sacrifice to your God in the land. He's really irritated at this point. And keep in mind, I believe Pharaoh was bald, but you don't have to keep that in mind, but keep this in mind. He had just previously placed lice on all the people, like in the land of Egypt. And now and it didn't say that he lifted the plague of lice. It says that he adds on to it. So now they have lice and they have flies. Just imagine having all these things and 1,000,000 flies in your house as well as lice. And there's nothing that you can do about it. There's no raid to spray them dead. There's no, lice killer that you can go to any store, Walmart, Target, wherever you go to get it and to clean your head from lice. There's nothing you can do. He goes on to say, and Moses said, it is not right to do so, for we would be sacrificing the abomination of the Egyptians to the Lord our God. If we sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians before their eyes, then will they not stone us? We will go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to the Lord our God as he will command us. So Pharaoh said, I will let you go that you may sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness. Only you shall not go very far away. Intercede for me. Listen to this. Pharaoh saying, intercede for me. Because I don't think he was afflicted by the lice, but he's definitely afflicted by the flies. So then Moses said, indeed, I am going out from you, and I will entreat the Lord that the swarm of flies may depart tomorrow from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. But let Pharaoh not deal deceitfully any more in not letting the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. So Moses went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord, and the Lord did according to the word of Moses. He removed the swarm of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. Not one remained. But Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also, neither would he let the people go. So then the Lord said to Moses, go in to Pharaoh and tell him, thus says the Lord God of the Hebrews, let my people go that they may serve me. For if you refuse to let them go and still hold them, behold, the hand of the Lord will be on your cattle in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the oxen, and on the sheep, a very severe pestilence. And the Lord will make a difference between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt. So nothing shall die of all that belongs to the children of Israel. Then the Lord appointed a set time, saying, tomorrow the Lord will do this thing in the land. So the Lord did this thing on the next day, and all the livestock of Egypt died. But of the livestock of the children of Israel, not one died. Then Pharaoh sent, and indeed, not one of the livestock of the Israelites were dead. But the heart of Pharaoh became hard, and he did not let the people go. And this right here should be very encouraging for you, for all of us. Sometimes we'll be going through things, and as we're going through things, we'll see, Lord, these people are afflicting me. Like these people are doing awful things to me. Or you may be, and someone may be using occultic things against you, or you may just have household enemies, or you may have somebody from work that's just awful to you. But you will see that those people that are afflicting you, you don't know how God is dealing with them, because you have the children. This is Moses and Aaron going back and forth to Pharaoh. You don't necessarily have like the entire tribe of Israel, like the entire children of Israel going backwards and forth to Pharaoh. They're in the land of Goshen. They're actually in their specific quarters. They're in their area. But the children of the Egyptians, they're specifically being dealt with. He says Pharaoh and his people. But when you look at the Egyptians, they're not really afflicted at all. They're not afflicted at all. And so anyway, sometimes you'll think that God is dealing harsh with you, but you have no idea how he's dealing with those that persecute you, that come against you. You have no idea the calamity that God is placing on them, because you don't see their private lives. You only see the wrath or the affliction or the anger or the things that they project to you, but you don't know how God is dealing with them. He goes on to say, in the sixth plague, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, take for yourselves handfuls of ashes from a furnace, and let Moses scatter it toward the heavens in the sight of Pharaoh, and it will become fine dust in all the land of Egypt, and it will cause boils that break out in sores on man and beast throughout all the land of Egypt. Then they took ashes from the furnace and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses scattered them toward heaven, and they caused boils that break out in sores on man and beast. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils were on the magicians and on all the Egyptians. The magicians and on all the Egyptians. But the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not heed them, just as the Lord has spoken to Moses. So in the midst of all these things, not only is God making an example of who he is, the glory and the power and the majesty and the authority, the domain that he has, not only to Pharaoh, but all of those that are surrounded by Pharaoh. He has put the magicians in their place because they're afflicted and they cannot heal themselves. And all the people know that this is the God of the Israelites that's doing this. So by them being afflicted, the rest of the community, the rest of the region, and even those surrounding that are not there, because the word is going to spread of what happened, they're going to know that the God of the Israelites did this. So then the Lord said to Moses, "Rise early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh and say to him, 'Thus says the Lord God of the Hebrews, let my people go, that they may serve me. For at this time I will send all my plagues to your very heart, and on your servants, and on your people, that you may know that there is none like me in all the earth. Now, if I had stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, then you would have been cut off from the earth. But indeed, for this purpose, I have raised you up, that I may show my power in you, and that my name may be declared in all the earth. As yet you exalt yourself against my people, in that you will not let them go. Behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause very heavy hail to rain down, such as has not been in Egypt since its founding until now. Therefore, send now and gather your livestock and all that you have in the field, for the hail shall come down on every man and every animal which is found in the field and is not brought home, and they shall die. He who feared the word of the Lord among the servants of Pharaoh made his servants and his livestock flee to the houses. But he who did not regard the word of the Lord left his servants and his livestock in the field. And you're going to see here that by those that actually, these are the people in Pharaoh's house. Initially, they did not have any fear of the Lord, but because of the affliction, they began to fear the Lord. And so whenever God says, if you take your livestock and if you bring them to your house, they'll be saved. So you see here that part of Pharaoh's household, they're already starting to, when I say household, I mean his, everybody that is under his rule, they're starting to have the fear of God in them. They're starting to believe God. But he says there's some that still didn't. He who did not regard the word of the Lord left his servants and his livestock in the field. And then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be hail in all the land of Egypt, on man, on beast, and on every herb of the field, throughout the land of Egypt." And Moses stretched out his hand, his rod toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and fire departed to the ground, and the Lord rained hail on the land of Egypt, so there was hail and fire mingled with the hail. Imagine that, hail and fire, so very heavy that there was none like it in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. And the hail struck throughout the whole land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast. And the hail struck every herb of the field and broke every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, there was no hail. Again, you have no idea what your enemies are going through, because you're only dealing with the pressure and the affliction that they've put on you, but you have no idea what God is doing behind the scenes. And Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said to them, "I have sinned this time. The Lord is righteous, and my people and I are wicked. Entreat the Lord that there may be no more mighty thundering and hail, for it is enough. I will let you go, and you shall stay no longer." So Moses said to him, "As soon as I have gone out to the city, I will spread out my hands to the Lord. The thunder will cease, and there will be no more hail, that you may know that the earth is the Lord's. But as for you and your servants, I know that you will not yet fear the Lord God." Now the flax and the barley were struck, for the barley was in the head, and the flax was in the bud. But the wheat and the spelt were not struck, for they are late crops. So Moses went out of the city from Pharaoh and spread out his hand to the Lord. Then the thunder and the hail ceased, and the rain was not poured on the earth. And when Pharaoh saw that the rain, the hail, and the thunder had ceased, he sinned yet more, and he hardened his heart, he and his servants. So the heart of Pharaoh was hard, neither would he let the children of Israel go, as the Lord has spoken by Moses. Now the Lord said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his servants, that I may show these signs of mine before him, and that you may tell in the hearing of your son and your son's son the mighty things I have done in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that you may know that I am the Lord. So Moses and Aaron came into Pharaoh and said to him, Thus says the Lord God of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Or else, if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your territory, and they shall cover the face of the earth, so that no one will be able to see the earth, and they shall eat the residue of what is left, which remains to you from the hell, and they shall eat every tree which grows up for you out of the field. They shall fill your houses, the houses of all your servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, which neither your fathers nor your fathers' fathers have seen since the day that they were on the earth to this day. And he turned and went out from Pharaoh. And then Pharaoh's servants said to him, How long shall this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Do you not yet know that Egypt is destroyed? So Moses and Aaron were brought again to Pharaoh, and he said to them, Go serve the Lord your God, who are the ones that are going. And Moses says, We will go with our young and our old, with our sons and our daughters, with our flocks and our herds. We will go, for we must hold a feast to the Lord. Then he said to them, The Lord had better be with you when I let you and your little ones go. Beware, for evil is ahead of you. Not so. Go now, you who are men, and serve the Lord, for that is what you desired. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. And I want to remind you, we'll go over this at the end, but each plague represents an Egyptian deity. Each plague is the destruction, is God showing his preeminence. He's showing his power, his authority, his reign and dominion over the Egyptian deities. And we'll go over that when we're done reading. I meant to mention them as we read through them, but it just dawned on me just a second ago. And then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come upon the land of Egypt and eat, let's see, and eat every herb of the land, all that the hell has left. So Moses stretched out his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind on the land all that day and all that night. When it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts, and the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt and rested on all the territory of Egypt, and they were very severe. Previously, there had been no such locusts as they, nor shall there be such after them. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened, and they ate every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left. So there remained nothing green on the trees or on the plants of the field throughout all the land of Egypt. And then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in a haste, and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God, and against you. Now therefore, please forgive my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God that he may take away from me this death only. So he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord, and the Lord turned a very strong west wind, which took the locusts away and blew them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the territory of Egypt, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go. And this is so interesting because so many times we say, God, if you do this, I'll get it right. And then he does it, and then we still don't do it. Or if you do this, Lord, like I'm going to do this. We make a vow to God. If he does, he answers our petition, and then we basically break that vow. We don't keep our words. And he's merciful. We see that he's merciful even with Pharaoh, and he's the same way with us. But a lot of us are like Pharaoh. We'll ask God for something, like forgive me, and he'll take away all the affliction, whatever you're dealing with, and then we'll go back to doing what we were doing before. And it's kind of like whenever you keep saying, I'm sorry, I'm going to do it right, forgive me, I'm going to do it right, I'm going to get it right, and you don't do it, it's the same scenario. It is adultery from those that are already belonging to God. And in this instance, Pharaoh is just like he doesn't fear the Lord enough where he would keep the words that he has spoken. He's not hit rock bottom per se. And so then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, darkness which may even be felt. Darkness which may be even be felt. And I don't know if you guys have ever and this word, the word they use right here, it literally means that one may feel the darkness. So that is the word that they use for this, which is why this sentence is longer. But anyway, a darkness that you can be felt. So anytime you've ever heard of anybody that has experienced, they've had like these NDE, which are near death experiences, or you've had anybody that has been on drugs, or they've died in a hospital, or they've been on a trip, like they've done some sort of like I don't know which certain drugs I guess will get you on a trip. I don't know which ones, but anyway, they'll get you on a trip like acid, I think, or something like that. But what you find is that a lot of times they will have these near death experiences, or these scenarios or events where they experience hell, and it is described the same way throughout the entire world, from people from different nations, cultures, that it is a place, it is a darkness that you can feel, that it has its own presence. And so whenever this is spoken and darkness falls on Egypt, the type of which can be felt, that is the thought that comes to my mind. So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They did not see one another, nor did anyone arise from his place for 3 days. For 3 days, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. Then Pharaoh called to Moses and said, go serve the Lord. Only let your flocks and your herds be kept back. Let your little ones also go with you. But Moses said, you must also give us sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our livestock also shall go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind, for we must take some of them to serve the Lord our God. And even we do not know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, get away from me, take heed to yourself, and see my face no more, for in the day you see my face, you shall die. So Moses said, you have spoken well, I will never see your face again. And the Lord said to Moses, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. Afterward, he will let you go from here. When he lets you go, he will surely drive us out of here altogether. Like him and his God. Speak now in the hearing of the people, and let every man ask from his neighbor, and every woman from her neighbor, articles of silver and articles of gold. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, because the people of Egypt feared God. Like they feared God. Pharaoh, who had authority over Egypt, he did not fear God. And this is why it's so important that you pray for your leaders and those that are in leadership positions, that maybe for a change of heart or whatever it may be, because the direction and because of the heart posture and the things that are done in leadership in high places, the entire people suffered for that. The leader technically was kind of like Pharaoh was kind of like the covering for Egypt. He was the spokesman, he was the person of Egypt. So this is why it's really important that you pray for your leaders. Even if you don't agree with them, you should still pray for them. And even if you agree with them, we as believers, we all pray the same prayer, that God would lead with wisdom and understanding. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. And then Moses said, thus says the Lord, about midnight I will go out into the land of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the female servant who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the animals. Then there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as was not like it before, nor shall be like it again. But again, none of the children of Israel shall a dog move its tongue against man or beast. Let's see. I think I skipped a spot. But again, none of the children of Israel shall a dog move its tongue against the man or beast, that you may know that the Lord does make a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these your servants shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, get out, and all the people who follow you. After that, I will go out." Then he went out from Pharaoh in a great anger. But the Lord said to Moses, "Pharaoh will not heed you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt." So Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. And this is the Passover. Okay. Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Shall speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th month of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the persons. According to each man's need, you shall make your account for, let's see, where are we? You shall make your account for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You may take it from the sheep of or from the goats. Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight, and they of the houses where they eat at. Then they shall eat the flesh of that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its entrails. You shall let none of it remain until morning, and what remains of it until morning you shall burn with fire. And thus you shall eat it with a belt on your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. So you shall eat it in a haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. Now again, each plague was basically a counter. It was basically an attack. I would say an attack, and it was destruction of an Egyptian deity, showing that God had dominion and power over them. And again, we're going to go over that when we're done reading. We have, I think, one more chapter after this, or maybe two. I am the Lord. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. So this day shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and on the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation for you. No manner of work shall be done on them, but that which everyone must eat, that only may be prepared by you. So you shall observe the feast of unleavened breads. For on this same day I will have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generation as an everlasting ordinance. In the first month of the 14th day of the month at evening you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. For 7 days no leaven shall be found in your houses, since whoever eats what is leavened, that same person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a stranger or a native of the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your dwelling you shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, Pick out and take lambs for yourselves, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning. For the Lord will pass through to strike the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to strike you. And you shall observe this thing as an ordinance for you and your sons forever. It will come to pass when you come to this land which the Lord will give you, just as he promised, that you shall keep this service. And it shall be when your children say to you, what do you mean by this service? That you shall say, it is the Passover sacrifice of the Lord, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians and delivered our households. So the people bowed their heads and worshiped. And then the children of Israel went away and did so just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. So they did. And it came to pass at midnight. Now, the midnight is the beginning of the third prayer watch. It is a third watch hour. So it came to pass at midnight that the Lord struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of the Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. So Pharaoh rose in the night, he, all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And then he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, arise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go serve the Lord as you have said. Also take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also. So Pharaoh forces him to leave, and he demands a blessing. He says, get out and bless me also. And the Egyptians urged the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. For they said, we shall all be in haste. For they said, we shall all be dead. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their clothes and on their shoulders. Now the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moses, and they had asked from the Egyptians articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing. And the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they granted them what they requested. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. And then the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the children. So they're not even including the babies, and there's a lot of them. A mixed multitude went up with them also, and flocks and herds, and a great deal of livestock. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were driven out of Egypt and could not wait, nor had they prepared provisions for themselves. Now the sojourn of the children of Israel who lived in Egypt was 430,000. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, on that very same day, it came to pass that all the armies of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night of solemn observance to the Lord for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This is that night of the Lord, a solemn observance for all the children of Israel throughout their generations. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. No foreigner shall eat it, but every man's servant who is bought for money. When you have circumcised him, then he may eat it. A sojourner and a hired servant shall not eat it. In one house it shall be eaten. You shall not carry any of the flesh outside of the house, nor shall you break one of its bones. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger dwells with you and wants to keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as a native of the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat it. One law shall be for the native born and for the stranger who dwells among you. Imagine you get to this land as a male, and they're saying, well, if you want to live in this land, we know that you're looking for a place and you can't find a place, but we'll let you live here only if you will get circumcised. And you're telling this to an adult male. Imagine the surprise. So thus all the children of Israel did as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron. So they did. And it came to pass on that very day that the Lord brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt according to their armies. And then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, consecrate to me all the firstborn, whoever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, it is mine. And Moses said to the people, remember this day in which you went out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of hand the Lord brought you out of this place. No leavened bread shall be eaten. On this day you are going out in the month of Abib. And it shall be when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service in this month. 7 days you shall, unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and no leavened bread shall be seen among you, nor shall leaven be seen among you in all your quarters. And you shall tell your son in that day, saying, this is done because of what the Lord did for me when I came up from Egypt. It shall be as a sign to you on your hand and as a memorial between your eyes, that the Lord's law may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand the Lord has brought you out of Egypt. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. And it shall be, when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and gives it to you, that you shall set apart to the Lord all that open the womb, that is, every firstborn that comes from an animal which you have. The males shall be the Lord, but every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with the lamb. And if you will not redeem it, then you shall break its neck. And all the firstborn of man among your sons you shall, you shall redeem. So it shall be, when your son asks you in time to come, saying, what is this? That you shall say to him, by strength of hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh was stubborn about letting us go, that the Lord killed all the first in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of the man and the firstborn of the beast. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord all males that open the womb, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeemed. It shall be as a sign on your hand and as frontlets between your eyes, for by your strength of your hand of the Lord brought us out of Egypt. And the reason that the human son is redeemed, and that is because we don't do human sacrifice. Okay, not in our faith. We don't do human sacrifice, and so these other animals are to be sacrificed to God, but humans, they have to be redeemed, as well as a donkey, because a donkey is considered to be unclean or unworthy, I should say. So then it came to pass, when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up in an orderly rank out of the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had placed the children of Israel under solemn oath, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here with you. So they took their journey from Succoth and camped in years. So meaning that Joseph's bones had been set aside for 430 years. Because whenever Joseph brought the children of Israel to Egypt, they were well respected because they loved Joseph. But Joseph had been forgotten, and 430 years had passed, and his bones, they had his bones in their possession, waiting, because that's faith. That is faith, because they knew that they would be delivered because he said it. Imagine keeping the bones for 430 years because you believe that God is going to deliver you. 430 years. That's how long it took. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. He did not take away the pillar of cloud by day or the pillar of fire by night from before the people. And this is the last chapter we're going to cover. It says, now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, saying, speak to the children of Israel that they turn and camp before Pi Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, opposite Baal Zephon. You shall camp before it by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are bewildered by the land. The wilderness has closed them in. Then I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will pursue them, and I will gain honor over Pharaoh and over all his army, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. And now was told the king of Egypt that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people, and they said, why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? And when he's saying let Israel go, he's saying, why have we let our free labor go? Like, why do we let our slaves go? So he made ready his chariots and took his people with him. Also, he took 600 choice chariots and all the chariots of Egypt with captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel, and the children of Israel went out with boldness. So the Egyptians pursued them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen and his army, and overtook them camping by the sea, besides Pi Hahiroth, before Baal Zephon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. So they were very afraid, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. Then they said to Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you so dealt with us, to bring us up out of Egypt? Is this not the word that we told you in Egypt, saying, leave us or let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians, that we should die in the wilderness. And a lot of times, whenever you're being delivered from anything, when you're being delivered from addiction, when you're being delivered from any toxic relationship or scenario, you're going to go through like a withdrawal period, I would say. So drugs, a withdrawal period; alcohol, a withdrawal period. And as you go through those withdrawal periods, you're going to be wanting to go back, because you're going to say, the pain that I'm dealing with from this withdrawal is much more intense. It's too intense for me to endure. The pain that I'm dealing with, I'd rather be on the drugs or be using alcohol or be in that bad relationship, instead of struggling and going through what I'm going through right now. So you can kind of see people, and we can kind of consider Egypt to be something that God needed to deliver us from. Your Egypt may be alcohol, it may be shopping, it may be gossiping, it may be whatever it may be. Whatever your Egypt may be is something that God takes you out of, and you have the desire, just like the children of Israel, they had the desire to go back, because it became too much to be without it. It became too much that they endured the affliction, or I would say withdrawals, or the fear. It's the fear. It became overpowering, and they wanted to go back because they didn't want to go through the transformation process of being, because anytime you're delivered from something, there's going to be a period where you're going to have to be thoroughly transformed. You can't be this version. They're growing pains. If you've ever had a child, sometimes you will find that whenever they grow taller, their shins will hurt, their knees will hurt, their legs will start to hurt, and they'll start to sleep a lot more, and they're growing, but they feel pain in their body. It's essentially the same thing. Once you're delivered, there's going to be growing pains. And Moses said to the people, do not be afraid, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. This is where some translations say you have to be still. The Lord will fight for you. You need to be still. But the Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And the Lord said to Moses, why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward, but lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. God is so good that their feet didn't even get wet. They didn't walk on muddy ground. They didn't walk in this pit of just, like sinking into like mud. I don't know if you've ever been out, to a lake or anything like that, but the area surrounding by it, the water's always like mush, especially if it's like a sea. It's been really saturated with water. The ground was completely dry when they went through it. Their shoes or their sandals were not even dirty. They didn't get dirty from walking through the sea. He says, And I indeed will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. So I will gain honor over Pharaoh and over all his army, his chariots and his horsemen. Then the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. And when I have gained honor for myself over Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen, and the angel of God who went before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud went from before them and stood before them. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus it was a cloud and darkness to the one, and it gave light by night to the other, so that the one did not come near the other all that night. And then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind, and all that night, and made the sea into a dry land. And the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left hand, on their left. So imagine walking through this road, and the waters. It's defying nature. It's defying everything that we know how gravity and nature works. And the Egyptians were like a very intellectual, knowledge based type of society. And so imagine walking through this, seeing this awe-inspiring thing and never seeing anything like that before. The Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. Now it came to pass in the morning watch, that the Lord looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and he troubled the army of the Egyptians, and he took off their chariot wheels so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." So they're speaking about to themselves in third person. Let us run from them because their God is fighting against us. And then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, on their chariots and on their horsemen." And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. And when the morning appeared, the sea returned to its full depth, while the Egyptians were fleeing into it. So the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And then the waters returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and all of the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. Not so much as one of them remained. But the children of Israel had walked on dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on the right hand and on their left. So the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Thus Israel saw the great work which the Lord had done in Egypt. Moses. And that's all we're going to cover today, but there are a few things I want to share with you guys. So the first one is we're going to go back a few chapters because I didn't mention this. Actually, it'd probably be easier. Let me just pull it up really quick. I made notes in here and I have the notes, but we can probably go through and see if I can find them this way. It may be easier if I just pulled it up. I may have it somewhere else. Oh, let's see, we have the Exodus. Let's go back a little bit further. Bear with me, guys. I want to talk to you about the plagues. So this is the Passover. So I think we're going to go back to maybe Exodus chapter. Let's go to like chapter 2. Moses is born. It's not that. Let's look at 3. The burning bush. It's not that one. Let's see. Moses goes to Egypt. Let's see. First encounter with Pharaoh. Okay, so he's... Okay. Just bear with me just a second. Okay. Okay, so we have the first plague here. Oh, I didn't put my little notes on here. Is it here maybe? Okay, so here we're going to go over what some of these different deities are. So the first plague that they did was, we see here, the fish that were in the water, they died and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink the water because he turned the water into blood. And so the deity for this is Geb, which is the god of the earth. the god of the earth, and this is an Egyptian deity. And so each plague that God presented and put on Egypt, it was an attack against an Egyptian deity. Okay, so this one right here, um, it says in the, let me see if I can pull it up in a different place too. We have notes here. I just didn't read them when we went through them. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so we got this one right here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. It'll make it easier so we can kind of go through each one of them without having to search for it. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you because Geb didn't really sound like that. This was for a different one. I think this was Geb was for the locust. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you really quick. So we have so when God turned the water to blood, they have the god Kanum, and they have the god Hapi, and these are lowercase g gods. And Khnum is supposedly the guardian of the river source. And this deity was clearly cut off during those times because the water had been turned to blood. And then you have Hapi, the god of the annual flooding of the Nile. And so those are the two that were primarily attacked with the first plague. The second plague with frogs, this was against Heket. And oh, I really wish I had my notes. And Heket, it kind of looks like this. This half, it has like a frog head. This deity has the head of a frog, I believe. But I'm gonna read to you what they have here. But I really want my notes. I don't want their notes. I want my notes because they're more detailed and I wrote them, so they're obviously more near and dear to me. But we'll read through this for the sake of time. And then we have the third one. The third deity is lice. I'm sorry, lice. It was the plague of lice. And this is known as Seb or Keb, which is also known as Geb. And this was considered the god of the earth. It's often portrayed as a goose or a man stretched out on the dust of the earth. And while the earth deities and other cultures are considered female, Geb was a male deity and he was bisexual, yet he was able to produce eggs representing fertility. And so this is a frog. It's not a frog. That is the god of the earth, Geb. And then we have flies, and that is the deity Shu, the god of air and supporter of the sky. It was next. It was next up. Let's see. Shu was often depicted in human form with an ostrich feather on his head, the hieroglyphic for his name. However, the air was totally commanded by God of Israel and his army of the flies in the third plague. And I'm just reading these through from another source. I have them in here in my notes, but I didn't have them pulled up for the sake of this video. And so I'm going to read to you the others as well. The next one is the livestock, the pestilence of the livestock. So Hathor was the Egyptian goddess of fertility as well. Women, she was the goddess of fertility, women, love, and the sky. And this deity would usually be portrayed as a cow, a very important animal in this part of the world. But let's see. But that deity is Hathor. The next plague of boils. This was an attack against Sekhmet and Isis, and they were the Egyptian deities for healing. The next one is for hail. You had the Egyptian sky goddess of Nut and the storm god of Seth. And so this was a direct attack against them because remember, hail and fire came down from heaven. The next plague, locust, this was from the Egyptian deity Bastet. And this is it's the deity in the form of a cat that was supposed to be a protector of the crops from rodents and vermin like locusts. However, there's also Osiris, which is the deity of agriculture. And so locust was a direct attack against them because these deities couldn't do anything and are essentially demons. Okay, and then darkness. Darkness was a direct attack against Ra, which is their sun god. And some people today still worship Ra, but the sun god. And there's also another deity, it says here, there were also other sun deities known as Aton. And Horus was another, portrayed as a falcon with his right eye at the sun or morning star, representing power and quintessence. So then we have the death of the firstborn. And this was Well, let's see if we could see. This was an attack directly against Pharaoh because he was considered to be a god, I suppose. At least that's according to these notes. I really wish I had my notes. I'm sorry. When we start tomorrow, I'll see if I can pull them up and I'll have them, we can go through them quickly because mine are a little bit more detailed and I did a little bit more fact checking than this particular website. But anyway, they were an idolatrous nation. But again, at this time, idolatry was kind of to be expected because God had only one specific group of people that were his people, and these were the Israelites. And he was in the beginning of establishing them. He was in the beginning of and remember, the Israelites, the whole premise of that was to bring forth Jesus. The whole premise of the promise was to bring forth Jesus. That's all. And because of Jesus, we're all saved now. We're all saved because of that. So prior to that, God, Yahweh, the God that we serve, he was only the God to the Israelites. Those were the only peoples throughout the entire world that he had chosen as his own people. In fact, we see in several places throughout scripture that he likens them to his children, to as his spouse, a lot of different ways to show the endearment and the love and affection that he has for them. And there's something else I want to see if I can show you really quick. Let me see if I can pull it up. I wish I was more prepared for it this morning, but let me see. Oh, it is. There's a video. There's quite a few videos. I don't like pulling up these things right here. Let me see images. So I'm going to pull this up right now, and I'm going to see if I can share this with you. Hopefully you guys can see this. So they actually found chariots in the bottom of the Red Sea. Is this pulled up? Yeah. So they actually found chariots in the bottom of the Red Sea. And this is the same sea. And these things are old. And you can look through. There's several documentaries on YouTube about it, or I'm sure there's other sources. I think I've seen it maybe once on the Discovery Channel a long time ago, if not the Discovery Channel, a channel like it. But they have found chariot wheels and remnants of pieces. These things are very old, and so it's kind of a situation where you pick it up, you can see it's been dissolved. I shouldn't say dissolved, but it's been what is the word I'm looking for? Tarnished over time. The tarnish isn't the word, but I'm going to use that for lack of a better word that comes to mind right now. But you can see here that they have actually found the wills and other parts of it. I watched a documentary because they're actually doing things in action. They have cameras. They're going into the sea, and so it's more I think reliable and it's more believable. But they have actually found evidence of this in the bottom of the Red Sea, and so I find it very interesting. All things Bible, it's always very interesting. But anyway, guys, that's all we're going to cover today. Maybe decayed, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking degraded, but it wasn't the word. There was a lot of information in such a short time, and I like sharing and listening with you. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do is tomorrow I have my notes, and I don't know if you guys can see, I use the Logos apps. And so kind of whenever you see like these little notes right here, these are notes that I've written or ideas that I've had or something that I thought was really interesting. And I don't know if I hover over this, can you guys see the note? Can you see part of it? I would love to share them with you. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, or does it just show like a little hand? But sometimes I'll write notes and you'll see this little thing right here. But if I don't put this here, like specifically put that there, then there's no way that it'll show up. But yeah, but anyway, yes. So there's a lot here. The first thing that I want to remind us all of, including myself, is that sometimes whenever your enemies, sometimes they're people that you know, sometimes they're people at work, sometimes they're family members, sometimes they're people that you don't know, they're ex-friends, they can be anybody, they can be just the enemy, the adversary as a whole, but you don't really know what they're going through, and you don't know why God has had you go through these things as long as he's having you go through them, because had the plagues, 10 plagues in total. God could have taken care of this the first time around. But because it happened over a period of time, it happened over a specific duration, it happened over a period of time, not only did Pharaoh's household began to fear God, his servants, but also the people, like the citizens, the residents of the land of Egypt, they feared him so much so God gave them favor that the Israelites, they asked these people for silver and gold, and they're like, here, you can have all the silver, you can have my watch, you can have everything, you can have whatever you want, you can have my earrings, my, they gave all their things because they feared the God. They believed that these things were done by God, and their magicians couldn't do anything. And the interesting part is that in the beginning, the first few plagues, the Egyptians, they could replicate. Like they could replicate these, they could copy them. But as they progressed, they couldn't do it. And what you saw was that they were able to wreak havoc, bring about calamity, but they could not undo it. They could not restore anything. Like they couldn't. Whenever God had turned the water into blood, the magicians couldn't undo that, but they were able to turn the water into blood, like a cup of water, but they were not able to undo what God had done. They couldn't do it. Because if they could, then the plagues would not even serve a purpose. The Egyptians themselves fell prey to the plague because they were covered with boils and things like that. However, keep in mind the Egyptians, they're just kind of wallowing in their woes because they're like, we're being afflicted, we're afraid, but they don't see how God is dealing with them because only Aaron and Moses is standing in the presence of the Egyptians. I mean, the Israelites, they're in Goshen, they're in their land that they were given since the time of Joseph. They were given that by the Pharaoh at that time. So they're in their own land, their own separated land. And so they don't see what Egypt is going through, but they don't see what Pharaoh is going through. They don't see what the citizens, they don't really see these things firsthand. And they may have like an idea of it, but they don't see, they don't endure it. They don't see it. So we don't really always know, and I can't say they don't see it. I'm sure they knew about it in some capacity, but they didn't have to endure it. You don't know what God is doing to these people because you don't see how God is dealing with them. You don't see it. And you say they keep coming at me or they keep doing these things. Just like Pharaoh, he hardens their heart so that his glory and his majesty, his authority, his full rule, reign, and dominion may be known. They will know that he is the Lord and there's no one above him. Every knee will bow. Every knee will bow. Every knee will bow. So, anyway, after all those plagues, I would have too. Amen. There's so many false gods. Brian, today we have so many false gods today. We have so many false gods today. But tomorrow when we start, I'm going to start off with my personal list of the first of the deities, of all 10 of them. I thought I put like this little notepad next to all of them, but I didn't. And so we're going to go back through them, and sometimes they get mixed up, but yeah, I want you guys to be encouraged by that, and just know that we don't always understand why we're going through the things we're going through, but a lot of times it's not for us, it's for somebody else. And on top of that, um, despite whenever they're delivered out of Egypt, they wanted to go back. You have to just trust the process of the transformation process. When God pulls you out of Egypt, remember, our Egypt's going to be different. Not everybody Egypt is going to look the same. Some people are being delivered from unclean spirits. Some people are being delivered from alcohol. They're being delivered from drug addiction. They're being delivered from toxic relationships. They're being delivered from different forms of, like just, debased minds, just, detrimental mindsets. They're being delivered from all these different things. So everybody's Egypt looks different. But whenever you come out of Egypt, there's always almost like a withdrawal because they wanted to go back. Let us go back so that we may serve and do the things we did before. It was easier for us then. And you're going to see that continuously the Israelites, they're going to continue to want to go back to Egypt. Like, you bring us out in the wilderness so that we can eat manna, to eat bread. We were eating steaks in the prisons in Egypt. We were eating we were eating dog chow. We were eating some kind of mystery meat in Egypt. It was better than this bread. At least it had flavor. You're going to see how ungrateful they really are. And I wouldn't say ungrateful, but how bound they really are. Because even though they were taken out of Egypt, they still had the mindset of a prisoner. They still had the mindset. They don't understand that they have been freed. And so, though they have been physically freed, they were still mentally bound. They were still mentally bound. You know how some people say you can take the girl out the country, but you can't take the country out the girl, or you can take the girl out the city, but can't take the city out the girl. Well, you can take the slave out of Egypt, but you can't take that. But you can't always get them to come to the mindset that they've been set free. So, anyway, guys, that's all we're gonna cover today. And so, um, good morning, Golden. Yeah, and we need to make sure again. I see somebody here mentioned the president here. We need to make sure that we pray for our leaders because of Pharaoh's decision, the entire country, the entire nation, the entire region of Egypt suffered. All he had to do was let the people go, and he didn't want to. So we should pray for our leaders, even if you agree with them or if you don't agree with them. It doesn't matter. You should pray for them. You should pray for them. So anyway, that's all we're going to cover. I pray that you guys have a fantastic day. We're going to pick back up tomorrow, and it'll be probably closer to 5:15-ish. And so we'll pick back up and we'll go over again really briefly some of the plagues. We'll have a more comprehensive list of what they represented, and then we will power through the book of Exodus. And so God bless you guys, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.